Hello everyone, and welcome to the Astro Consciousness channel. I'm Millie, and I am here to give you your forecast for the week of January 20th through the 26th. In this channel, we talk about the astrological energy of the week ahead and how you can integrate it into your personal and spiritual growth. So, we're coming from a week in which we had a very revelatory, emotional, and I would dare to say quite transformative full moon in Cancer. And for those of you who watch my full moon in Cancer forecasts, remember I mentioned that even though that was a full moon in Cancer, I thought that the protagonist and the main character of that full moon was really Pluto, Pluto in Aquarius, changing a lot of things and reminding us that the foundations of our lives were going to look very differently. I don't know if there are any of you out there who are aware, but I live in Los Angeles. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and so um, I have been around all of the fires that have been impacting this beautiful city that I get to call home. Thankfully, my some of my closest friends and my family were all well. We didn't have to evacuate, but it's been a very trying time because I also do have friends who did lose everything. This was such a devastating time. And of course, as an astrologer, I couldn't help but think of the astrology of such a potent full moon in Cancer and think about how the foundation of home in so many ways um, was impacted and transformed for a lot of people who this actually happened to. But what I'm noticing is that it's doing that to all of us in different ways. If we're truly paying attention and if we're really being present with what life, the world, and its events is showing us, there is a waking up that's happening. There is this elevation of consciousness that I have been talking about for months on end. And I think that sometimes Mother Earth needs to speak loudly to her children in order for her children to say, okay, something very fundamental needs to change here, needs to happen here. There is my awareness of myself and of others and of the way that I have known my place to be in this world needs to change, right? And as I said, again, in that full moon in Cancer forecast, Pluto was the main character. Pluto is saying fundamentally, transformationally, things are not the same. And so, one of the ways that I saw Pluto in Aquarius, empowerment, Pluto through community, Aquarius, manifest itself in Los Angeles is the way that Los Angeles has come together and truly just created an immense amount of community by donating things, by being there for everyone who lost everything. I'm really proud to be here and to be from here. I'm a first generation American of Guatemalan parents, and I've always thought to myself that what are the odds that at least my mom, who I was raised by, chose Los Angeles as the place where she would land and be in for, the rest of her life, and therefore I would get to be born here. It's something that I'm always grateful for, and it's a trying time for the city, and I have held both grief and an immense amount of gratitude. As such is the energy of Cancer, right? So when we think of the archetype of the energy of Cancer, is the archetype of the mother, of the unconditionally loving mother, right? So, for those that are mothers, for those that are parents, you understand what it's like to hold multiple truths at the same time and how, when there isn't spaciousness for that, how overwhelming that can feel. And when there is spaciousness for that, how interesting it is to hold both an immense amount of love and an immense amount of grief or anything else that we may be feeling. So, the way that that full moon in Cancer manifested itself, I was really blown away. And at the same time, you know, again, being reminded of the world is changing and we have a purpose, and that purpose looks differently for everyone. And if anything, my purpose in my work and what I do in my place in the world, in my life, and who I'm meant to be with myself and for others definitely solidified itself. So, I don't talk a lot about myself on here, but I thought that I would share that because it's a very real, present part of my life right now. Okay, so for those of you who are still here listening, thank you so much for holding that space for me. And with that said, let's get started with what the week ahead has in store for us. Monday, January 20th, we begin the week with Mercury and Capricorn creating a square to Chiron in Aries. So, one thing I'll say before I continue is that this week, I actually really like this week. I think this week in particular has one of the most beautiful days of the entire month of January, which is not till the weekend, but I'll get to that in a second. But what I love about this week is that there is a lot of opportunity, a ton of opportunity for a different understanding of the way certain things have unfolded. I think there is also a lot of opportunity for healing conversations, grounding conversations, conversations that let you know that there is some hope, that there is a solution on the other side of whatever it is that you may be experiencing. So, as I mentioned a few moments ago, right at the beginning of the video, with everything happening in Los Angeles, I really love the week ahead because I get the feeling that this week is going to show a lot of people, oh, okay, here's a solution. Here's an attorney I can speak to. This is what is going to happen with my insurance, right? There are a lot of hurdles that need to be crossed. I understand that, but I think that the week ahead really continues to empower individuals and community versus not. Now, us as individuals in our day-to-day life, Mercury and Capricorn square Chiron in Aries is Mercury and Capricorn is about looking at things exactly for what they are. Um, this has no room for rose-colored glasses. This has no room for denying the truth of things, for lying to ourselves in a certain way. This is the invitation to see things for what they are, speak to ourselves with full honesty, speak to others with full honesty and transparency, because why not, right? And the square to Chiron in Aries leaves room for potential grounded healing conversations. So let's say that for you, this has to do with a personal relationship in which, maybe sometime in the last couple of weeks, things have happened. Maybe you haven't been able to find the middle ground, or you haven't been able to really have a conversation at all. You two didn't have the space to hold space for each other. This is a really beautiful aspect to say, okay, here's what this is, here's how it hurts, but we're adults here. Capricorn energy in the zodiac will always remind us of this, of of what it is to be an adult, a mature person, emotionally mature person, and how necessary that is to navigate this very human life. Because at some point, we need to be able to get to that point to move forward with things, to keep building, right, in a very Capricornian way, forming, establishing our own life because we deserve it, right? So, as I said, this isn't necessarily like an emotional conversation, but this is a very no nonsense conversation. And so I think that that's important. I think that there is room for emotionality. I think that there is room to take space for yourself when you need it. And then sometimes you just need to have a very no nonsense conversation, either with another or with yourself. Okay. It's really about seeing a situation for what it is and saying, okay, what can I count on? What do I not count on? How do I move forward? If this has to do with anything that doesn't have to do with a relationship, if this is more on your day to day, um, be mindful of what you're taking on. Ask yourself, is this worth the headache? That's what this energy kind of gives me, right? So if there's something in your life where you kind of have to ask yourself, is this worth the headache? This is the week to get clear on whether if it's worth the headache or not. Chances are it's not, whatever, whatever that is, right? If this has nothing to do with anything outside of you or anyone outside of you, if this has to do with yourself, this is about the continuing reminder of minding your internal narrative. So on January 8th, the Sun in Capricorn created the square to Chiron in Aries. And if you remember that weekly forecast, it was about what do I believe myself possible? I remember that I described this as the potential imposter syndrome, right? I get this opportunity or I'm really excited about this thing that I want to move forward with, but thoughts and doubts can come around. But am I really qualified? Is it going to really work out? One of the things that we have to really keep in mind with 2025 is that we have to commit to the process and we have to let go of the outcome because Pluto in Aquarius is a new era that we've never lived before, so we don't have a blueprint, right? I've talked about our soul being the blueprint, and in order for us to understand what that even means, we have to go deeper within ourselves and understand the communication that our mind needs to have with our soul with all of the other planets, the other major outer planets switching signs, this is something new. So we have to let go of an outcome. But if there is something that we are being called to create and put out in the world, if there is something new that we're being called to learn that's going to help support our lives, right? We're talking about Capricorn energy, then we have to answer the calling and let go of the outcome. This can be something as big as going back to school for something, right? Switching careers, starting to work for yourself, starting to create content. Or this can be as personal as I'm going to eat differently. I'm going to move differently. I'm going to really take care of my health. At the end of the day, anything having to do with Capricorn energy has to do with what is the long-term result of this, right? What is the more than the result, what is the long-term, what are the potential long-term consequences of doing this or of not doing this? And so now Mercury square Chiron in Aries is about the checking in, right? Is there imposter syndrome? Do I still have doubts? But here's the thing. After that full moon in Cancer of January 13th, I don't know that there are any more doubts as much as there is more room for acceptance and perhaps surrender to, again, it is what it is. This is where I'm at. Or I've already committed to this and it's too late to turn back and I'm going to keep moving forward. So there's an element of encouragement that doesn't come from a very cheerleady place, but it does come from a place of I owe it to myself. I owe it to myself to have faith. I owe it to myself to have faith not just in life, but in myself, right? And the square to Chiron in Aries is just the reminder you didn't get this far to just get this far. Keep moving, keep going. Tuesday, January 21st, powerful day, beautiful day. We have the Sun Pluto conjunction in Aquarius at 2 degrees Aquarius. Now, a few things about this. One, this isn't the first Sun Pluto conjunction in Aquarius that we have. We experienced one in 2024. The difference is that in 2024, Pluto still retrograded back to Capricorn. So, this may have looked like at the beginning of 2024, either we were met with a pretty transformative event that we had to process the whole year, right? That really changed us. Anytime we have a Sun Pluto conjunction is about the transformation of the self, the transformation of the ego, and how our identity now is meant to navigate the world, right? Or again, in 2024, this may have manifested itself in I'm really going to go for this. I'm going to start this. I'm really excited about it. And then somewhere between late summer and the fall, when Pluto retrograded back into Capricorn, there was a little bit of a slump. And my hope is that you didn't quit if that's where you found yourself. There was a little bit of doubt. There was a little bit of a drawback, right? So there may have been some discouragement. Fast forward to Sun Pluto conjunction at 2 degrees Aquarius 2025. I would suggest that you actually create a little bit of a ritual here. of a welcoming in of the new era. Because that's what this really is, right? Remember, the nodes just switch signs. We're under new soul lesson energy, right? That we're going to unfold over the next 18 months. The Sun Pluto conjunction is really kind of like cuts the ribbon into this new space that we're entering, right? This Aquarius energy that we're entering. And just to give you, right, just so that you can follow your process, especially for those of you who journal, back in December, the weekend of December 6th through the 8th, Venus created a conjunction to Pluto. And I remember I told you guys, jot this down because we're going to experience this again. So, Venus Pluto conjunction, December 6th through the 8th. What desire came up for you? What did you realize in relationships? What came up perhaps around money, sustainability? What came up about relationship with self, relationship with others? Fast forward to January 21st, where now the sun, right, our identity, our new transformed identity, vitality, ego, shows up to meet the Pluto energy. What has changed for you? Remember all of the themes I mentioned, right? What has changed for you since the beginning of December? If you can begin to think back, right? Perhaps something very particular happened that weekend of December 6th, 7th, and 8th. And where are you now? And how did that thing, right? For some of you, specific may have happened, for some of you, not. But where were you? What were you thinking about? What were you considering? What were you going back and forth with? What was a desire that came up for you? What was something that you owned that you said, I really want this? Whether it's, I really want this new thing, I really want this thing to end. There was something about a desire that we had. And that now, again, fast forward to January 21st, Sun Pluto conjunction, either for some of you finds you in that new space that you wanted in early December, and maybe you didn't even realize that it would happen or think how it could happen, right? If that's the case for you, this is the universe remind you of. You don't have to worry about the how. I've got the how. What is a desire that you have? And where are you finding yourself this week? Don't worry about the how. I've got you. Okay. And that's a lesson for everybody, but not everybody's experiencing these things right now, right? The Sun Pluto conjunction is empowerment, is I don't know what's on the other side of this. But again, I trust in my ability and my intelligence, in my resources, in my community, right? There is, this is a beautiful day that if you do not allow yourself to become boggled down by negative thoughts, by thoughts of, the imposter, that's old news. It's old news. We are entering a new era, and how we enter it is so important because not only do we have to be intentional with the decisions that we make and who we walk this path with, because that's also important, but we have to be intentional of the thoughts we choose because our thoughts create our reality. All right. So think about these things because this Sun Pluto conjunction is active all week long. And I think that it's great energy to be empowered to move forward with something, to apply for something, to reach out to someone, to send out the resume, to have certain conversations. This is especially true around like a creative project, to feel excited about your creativity, to feel excited about the new chapter. One more thing I'll add, Pluto's involved. So there may be a sense of like overwhelm. There may be a sense of this transformation hurts a little bit. I get that. But I promise you, the universe is always working in your favor. And I will always be here to remind you of that. Wednesday, January 22nd. Okay, so there's not much going on, but I do want to point this out. The moon is in Scorpio, and the moon is going to transit the sign of Scorpio both January 21st and 22nd. There is intensity here. So we have a Sun Pluto conjunction that's active all week. It perfects on the 21st. And the moon in Scorpio is also going to enter Scorpio on the 21st, and it's going to remain there on the 22nd. A few things. Moon in Scorpio is intensity, right? So The intensity that you feel is going to be dependent on your level of awareness, level of consciousness, and where your mindset is at. So if your mindset is, not very expansive, is on a glass half empty, it's not wrong. That's just where you are. The moon in Scorpio is going to amplify that and it's going to intensify it. If that's the case for you, this is information. It's not, oh, I suck, I failed, I don't know, I don't know how to do this. No, it's information. The moon in Scorpio, Scorpio is the sign of the zodiac that excavates, is the sign of the zodiac that digs deep, deep, deep within to see what's underlying there. So, if there are thoughts and feelings of overwhelm, if there are thoughts and feelings that are scary and it's like, I don't see a way out, that's the mindset that's being asked to be looked at, observed, processed, and released. Is it that quickly? Does it get to happen on that day? Beautiful day to have a therapy or a coaching session, by the way, for those of you who have therapists or coaches, because you can, like, there can be a massive breakthrough. The 21st, 22nd, and even 20th. Actually, the whole week is great for that. So be mindful of that. Don't identify with the heavy negative thoughts. That is not you. You are light. You are guided by source. You are source itself. Okay? Now, on the flip side, if you are someone who is kind of starting anew, starting all over, you feel empowered, there's a little bit of nervousness, there's a little bit of like, okay, I have no other choice but to move forward. I'm excited and I'm a little, because I don't know what's on the other side. Because that's only natural for us to be nervous about not knowing the outcome, right? We're human. But this moon in Scorpio can then intensify your courage, can then intensify that fire that lives within you that says, I've transformed before. I have lost and gained before. I am a being that can alchemize this situation. This is a really beautiful day to understand the power of alchemization that we have. The power of understanding that whatever the world is showing us right now is actually because there's something really fruitful, beautiful on the other side. It's going to take as long as it takes for us to get to the other side. We need to still learn things along the way. But the understanding of this isn't happening to me, this is happening for me, right? What I hope is really becoming clear here is that I'm not trying to paint this as a really pretty picture. I think it's a beautiful picture, but it's still very human. And it's going to come with some heaviness, and you're going to feel things. And my hope is to remind you it's part of the process, and it doesn't define you, and it doesn't define the rest of your life wherever you may be. Thursday, January 23rd. Okay, we have a really beautiful configuration. I'm going to give you the astrological configuration first, and of course, then I'm going to explain it. Okay, so we have Mars retrograde in Cancer, sextile Uranus retrograde in Taurus at 23 degrees. We have Mercury in Capricorn at 23 degrees, trine that Uranus retrograde in Taurus at 23 degrees. We have that Mercury in Capricorn opposite Cancer at 23 degrees. So January 23rd, this configuration is happening at the 23 degrees of Cancer, Capricorn, Taurus. So this configuration is really beautiful because we have the elements of water and earth. Whenever water and earth comes together, that is the signification of there's fertile ground here for something to grow, in, right? Water and earth create fertile ground for something to grow in the long run. Why? Because Mars is still retrograde, right? Uranus is still retrograde. And whatever Mars retrograde in Cancer is doing right now is so that when Jupiter comes into Cancer in June, that's going to help it grow. It's going to help it bloom. So keep that in mind. Okay? Mars in Cancer, sextile, Uranus in Taurus is what am I feeling about this new beginning? This new beginning might feel slow, right? But Uranus and Taurus is saying it's okay. You're grounded, you're sustained, you're held. This is something new. We've broken the pattern. We've broken a certain pattern in your life that felt comfortable and safe for a really long time because that's what Cancer and Taurus represent in the zodiac. Those are the two signs in the zodiac that tend to dislike change because they like what feels safe. Cancer likes what feels safe emotionally. Taurus likes what feels safe materially, right? And so here we have these two energies in the middle of so much transformation, kind of trying to find their way in this new Aquarian era. And they're in a sextile. There's a certain level of acceptance. I think there's this translate into us saying, I have no other choice, so I'm going to accept that. Acceptance might be on a day-to-day basis, right? And then we have Mercury and Capricorn. That's the really grounding, solidifying energy here. That Mercury in Capricorn says, look, it is what it is. Look, this is what you're facing. There's no denying it. This is your situation. Okay. So the opposition that Mercury is creating to Mars, retrograde in Cancer, is saying there's a rebuilding that's happening. I'm planning something new before I move forward. This is going to potentially move a little slower than I may have anticipated, right? And then Mercury trine Uranus and Taurus is saying, I trust the other side. Some solutions may be different. Some solutions may be out of the box. Some solutions may be things that I may have never considered before, but now I'm considering it. So, all in all, I love this day. It's active all week because it reminds us of possibilities that we may have not thought of before, solutions we may have not thought of before. And it just reminds us, take your time, day by day. It's okay. It's almost like we're learning to walk again. We're learning to live again. We're learning to be again, right? In some way, shape, or form. So, what conversations, thoughts, ideas, dreams, and through intuitive hits were you having late October, right? Mars retrograde is touching degrees that it touched on late October. And how is there some clarity around that now? Or how has your life transformed and changed since late October to now? And now, how you move forward with life is completely different because there was a pattern in your life that was interrupted, a pattern of comfort, a pattern that felt like home that was interrupted. And so now, this is the invitation to say, this is my new reality. And so, but I'm supported and I have no other choice but to keep moving forward, right? You don't have to have it all figured out just yet, but there is an understanding of what you can count on and not. Now, the weekend of January 24th through the 25th. I love this because, first of all, we have Friday and Saturday. The moon is transiting the sign of Sagittarius. The moon in Sagittarius always reminds us of the possibilities, right? Sagittarius is the optimist of the zodiac. What if it does work out better than you would have imagined? What is the best possible outcome? What is this teaching you? How is this expanding? How the way that you see life, the way that you see yourself, how is this expanding your horizons? How is this making you someone who is wiser in this life? That is the gift of Sagittarius in the zodiac. That's what Sagittarius teaches the rest of us in the zodiac. And thank goodness, right? Thank goodness that it exists. But the weekend is really lovely. It's actually really soft, kind, compassionate, hopeful energy, right? We have Venus in Cancer, create a trine to Mars retrograde in Cancer. So here we have the two cosmic lovers in water signs connecting with each other. So romantic, so lovely, so kind. So on the one hand, it's a beautiful weekend for dates, whether first or not, right? It's a beautiful weekend to connect, to say, I just want to be with you, right? I just want to be in your presence. It lends itself for just really kind expression, okay? If this doesn't have to do anything with dates for you, this is beautiful energy for you to be around people that are your people, that feel kind and nourishing to your soul, and they feel like home and they feel like family, and there's a lot of compassion, right? Um, if this doesn't have to do with anyone else, right, for you, this is just a time for a lot of hope, healing, softness, kindness with yourself. On a more practical expression and interpretation of this, this is a really great weekend for you to make changes in your home, for it to feel more cozy, for it to feel more like you, for you to really create a space that feels like your sanctuary. And I think that that's a really lovely time to do that because the weekends are the times that people tend to take off, and sometimes people like to work on things around their home, right? Now, it's important to remember that both Venus and Mars, the cosmic lovers in water signs, are connecting, creating a sextile to Uranus and Taurus. If if this energy affects your relationship and you two are finding yourselves having kind conversations, more compassionate conversations, conversations around, okay, I can see what you meant, a few weeks ago. That's not how I received it. I can see that now. I'm sorry I came at you that way. I'm sorry I said what I said, right? The connection to Uranus and Taurus is the understanding, my goodness, when we give space for kindness and compassion in our relationship, we're reminded that our relationship is actually sustained in something really beautiful. I think that this is the potential to remind all of us that we are all just people on our own path, on our own journey, trying to figure it out. And the importance that it is that we as individuals are sovereign individuals who take care of ourselves, who take care of our responsibilities, who really show up for ourselves because we can't be putting that on someone else, right? If this has nothing to do with relationships for you, I think this is a beautiful weekend for a lot of creativity. And the connection to Uranus and Taurus is you really coming to the realization of, wow, this has legs. I actually think this might work. I actually feel really excited. This actually feels a little bit more grounded when I create a plan around it, right? Because Mercury's still in Capricorn. And by the way, that weekend, Mercury is going to connect to Pisces, to Neptune and Pisces. Anytime that Mercury and Neptune come together, it's beautiful energy for creativity, for planning, right? For dreaming. But all of this is about these dreams, these ideas, these visualizations, they need a foundation. They need legs. They need commitment. They need structure. So, whether that's on a more personal, individual thing for you and something that you want to embark on, or if this is in a relationship, there is an element of, okay, but we have to get serious about this. We need to have an agreement. We need to commit to something. We need to commit to being different with one another. I need to commit to being more, steady with my work, steady with my health. So, this is where I feel soul gets to meet the mind. And it's a be really beautiful union of that. Okay. So, as I said in the beginning, I love this week. I think it's a week that reminds us of the potential of life if we let it. And if we're not there, then that's just information for us to process, right? And to remind ourselves those negative thoughts don't define me. Those limiting thoughts don't define me. They don't define my life. They don't define where I'm going. They don't define the potential of me and my life and my relationship or whatever it is that your focus is in life at this moment in time. As always, may this be of service. Thank you all so much. You have no idea how much this work has held me through these difficult times that we're experiencing. It was it was my birthday, January 15th, and it was an interesting feeling to hold again both grief and gratitude at the same time. And I'm so grateful to be able to experience it and share it and hold it and have people in my life that shown so much support and to have this work. Because let me tell you, this work to me feels so much more important than it ever has before. So thank you to all of who are joining me and being a part of this dream. May this be of service. Much love. I'll talk to you next week.